Hey guys, what's going on? It's Space Cowboy, and today we're going to be talking about the quarterback matchups the Cowboys have this upcoming season. So, in the comment section of one of my videos, I forget what it was, Miss Scouting Pro, if you're watching, thank you so much, because he did bring up a good point that I didn't really think about until later on, where it was like, okay, like, it was talking in regards to the quarterback matchups we had and how they would face up against, the secondary, more or less. Well, this isn't exactly it, but we're going to look through the quarterbacks that we're going to have to go through. And again, I'm not saying, like, I know everything about these quarterbacks. All I'm saying is just a brief overview of what I've seen from them. And just see what our team can do against them. Obviously, other quarterbacks are going to be better than others. So let's go ahead and take a look. So first off, we have Eli Manning. We're very familiar with Eli at this point. We face him in weeks 1 and 9. He's 38 years old. Last year, he had 4,299 passing yards with 21 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Completion percentage of 66%, pass rating 92.4. Now, that's not necessarily per se an indicator of how good or bad he is, but generally it's in the ballpark of like what we would expect him to be. Now, he's just, what the Giants are trying to do is they're trying to take less pressure off of Eli and use Saquon Barkley as the main engine for the Giants offense from what I have seen, okay? Yes, they got rid of Odell Beckham Jr., yes, they have some interchangeable parts going throughout with the offensive line and such. I mean, I believe that the Giants have the ability to cause issues. Do I think they'll give the Cowboys, they'll sweep the Cowboys? Probably not. But I can definitely see the Giants posing us issues, okay? But it depends on how well Eli Manning plays. I've always said, especially of recent, Eli Manning, in my opinion, is holding back the New York Giants. I believe that if Eli Manning plays, I think that the Giants are not going to be as good of a team. Now, if he plays well, I think the Giants will be fine. But at the end of the day, I think that Eli Manning's holding back the Giants, as well as a couple key components on their team, such as the offensive line and other portions of that. But other than that, I think that the Giants have the ability to definitely play spoiler, especially if Eli plays well and the team plays well. So don't expect them to go 3-13, 4-12. I would expect maybe 6-10 and 7-9 as they are starting to try and get the pieces together once again. But hey, we'll see what happens. Next, we have Dwayne Haskins. Now, from what I've been hearing, and this has been flippy-floppy with the Redskins, is that I heard it's Case Keenum, and I heard that they're actually trying to start Dwayne Haskins. So I'm assuming that Dwayne Haskins is going to start. I'm not going to bother with Case Keenum because I feel like Dwayne Haskins will start. So we face the Redskins in weeks 2 and 17. So at the beginning and the end of the season. Dwayne Haskins is 22 years old. Obviously, he doesn't have any stats in his name because he hasn't played a snap yet in the NFL. I liked Haskins coming out of college personally. I felt like he was the best quarterback in the draft, along with, what's his name? Drew Lock was another guy that I kind of liked, but I felt like Dwayne Haskins was the best prospect. But it really boils down to what situation the Redskins are in, because we saw last year that the Redskins, when they were healthy, were a pretty good football team, and I can't shy away from that. That's just me being honest. I think when you look back at it, they were like 6-3 or 6-2 at one point, 5-2, whatever the case may be, and they really had control of the division. If their key players don't get hurt, I think that they probably win the division, or they get to the playoffs. And if the same situation with Dallas, if Dallas gets hot at the right time and they end up winning the division, who knows? I don't freaking know. But I believe that Washington pretty much can be a spoiler team similar to that of the Giants. I think that if they are healthy, they can be dangerous, but we got to see what happens. Again, to me, I put asterisks on the Giants and Redskins because it really depends on if those teams end up, well, the first being the Giants if Eli plays well, the second if they stay healthy. So there's that. And then in week 3, we face Josh Rosen, the former Arizona Cardinals quarterback that got traded when they selected Kyler Murray. He's 22 years old. He threw 2,278 yards. Now, he didn't throw a lot of yardage because he didn't start all of the games. He was sitting behind Sam Bradford, and he kind of got thrusted into the fire. 11 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, completion percentage of 55.2, pass rating 66.7. Now, when I would watch Josh Rosen with the Cardinals, if I had time, it really just showed how dysfunctional the Cardinals were. I think that Josh Rosen has the ability to be good. I just think that he needs to be in the right situation. I think him going to Miami is a pretty good situation. Now, do I think that Miami is going to contend? No. I think that Miami is in the same realm of the teams like the Bills, and ironically, they're in the same division, but they kind of are similar in the sense of they are getting the pieces, but they're still not there yet, okay? I think that we should be able to handle Josh Rosen, especially with from what we've seen from him. And we'll see if he grows because, we do face him early on in the season. So when we look at the first 3 quarterbacks we're facing, especially in Miss Scouting Pro, again, shout out to you because you did bring up a point, and I do agree with. Cowboys defense tends to start off slow at the start of the season, and then they kind of pick up later on. And I agree with that. I think that when you have these first 3 games against these guys, assuming that they play like we saw them play last year, or with Dwayne Haskins, he starts playing mediocrely because he's a new quarterback, or hopefully he does. I mean, that's there's nothing more you can ask for with those first 3 games. Now, the 4th game against Drew Brees, this is in New Orleans. He's 40 years old now. He threw nearly 4,000 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and set the completion percentage record at 74.4%, passer rating of 115.7. Now, I'm assuming that Drew Brees is going to play very well this season. I don't expect him to fall off. The only way I could see him falling off is just because the team isn't doing well. And I think that, while I don't think the team's going to go 13-3, I still think the Saints will be a competitive team nonetheless. I expect this to give us, this game should give us fits, but depending on what happens with our defense, and I'm not talking about the offense because this is more geared towards what can this defense do against these players. We saw what happened last year, and I understand that last year shouldn't be an indicator of what we're going to do this year, per se, with our defense, because it's completely different now. But we were able to rattle Drew Brees and that offense when it was rolling, when they were scoring like 30 points a game, and then we kind of blew them out of sync, and the rest is history. So for me, I think that the Saints, while they are a competitive team, and while I think they will do some damage here and there, I can see the Cowboys defense doing their thing. But remember, this is in New Orleans, and for the first 4 games, and again, I don't know if DeMarcus Lawrence will be playing in these games because I still haven't heard word of when he's returning. Me being the optimist, I'm assuming he's returning week 1. But if in the event, let's say at worst he misses 4 games, we should be fine through the first 3. But we're gonna definitely need him in this next middle stretch that you see coming up. So next we have Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, he's 35 years old. He threw 4,442 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 62.3% completion percentage, and 97.6. Now, what's interesting about Aaron Rodgers is we're seeing him, as of right now from what we've seen, he's coming down to earth more or less, okay? Aaron Rodgers has not been that MVP, he can carry a team on his back kind of guy over the past couple seasons. When he was out in 2017, a lot of people thought, well, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, they win the division, blah, 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 blah. But this year, he played throughout the season. He put up this stat line, and he just looked mortal. I think that, people will say, well, it was Mike McCarthy, sabotage, whatever the case may be. The fact of the matter is that Aaron Rodgers, I don't, listen, he has his games versus us. Like, he always has good games versus us. But if Aaron Rodgers plays like he played last season against us, While it might not result in interceptions, which we do need more of, I think that we need to create more turnovers, okay? While I believe we can create turnovers and things of that nature, I believe that this team will have a much better time versus Aaron Rodgers, especially if the defense starts coming around towards the later part of the season, because that's typically, and assuming if this team starts rolling, if they start stacking wins, because typically when teams start, like we saw with the Saints last year, as they kept stacking wins, like the momentum just carried every single week. You could see it. And then when they got hit by Dallas, in that one Thursday night game, they just fell out of sync. So I think that Aaron Rodgers, we should be able to handle him at this point. But again, for all we know, maybe Matt LaFleur is the guy that ends up connecting with him and they end up doing some magic. Or maybe it's just a whole mediocre season again for the Packers. But we'll see what happens. Next, we face Sam Darnold. He's 22 years old. 2,865 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. Now, with this thing with Sam Darnold, is that, again, another young quarterback. We're going up against a pretty decent amount of young quarterbacks this season with, a couple a decent amount of veterans in there, okay? With Sam Darnold, he had his moments last year, but at the same time, he just, with Sam Darnold, he just reminded me a whole lot of Eli when he doesn't play well. And again, no insult to Jets fans, but I think that Sam Darnold, while I believe he will improve this season, I think the Cowboys should have a favorable matchup versus Sam Darnold because, what I saw from Sam Darnold before, with the Jets and stuff like that. Like I said, he'll have his moments, both good and bad. Like, there'll be times where he throws an ill-timed interception. There will be times where he tries to force it into certain places. And I think that that's going to hurt them, especially if he plays like that against the Cowboys, especially with the defense that we have. If they're playing well and we're not still struggling, we should be fine. Next, we have Carson Wentz on the docket. We will be facing him 7 and 16 those weeks, and he is 26 years old. He is last year he threw. Now keep in mind he did miss some games as well. 3,074 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Obviously, I believe if he played more games, he would have a better stat line, and he threw for about 70% completion percentage with a pass rating of 102.2. Now, the thing, and we got to objectively look at this with the Eagles, guys. We can't just sit there, they suck. Listen, the thing with the Eagles is that while Carson Wentz would play well, the Eagles would just falter at the wrong time, which, for us, that's good. We want them to fall apart. But from what I saw, Carson Wentz played very well when he had his chances in most games. Obviously, there were games where he didn't play as well, like the Saints game. But really looking at it, I think that, and I believe if I'm correct, when we faced him this year, he threw, I'm trying to think, 3 touchdowns if I remember, and against us in the second game, and I think he threw 2 or 3 in the first one. I could forget. But they still lost. So the thing is what I get from the Eagles is that while Carson Wentz plays well for the most part, the team itself just doesn't come up in the right moments. Like, there will be times where even he starts off games slow, especially in those Cowboys games. Carson Wentz started off real slow. It took until the 4th or 3rd quarter, that second half, until he kind of got going again. So the more I look at it, Carson Wentz, is he bad? Hell no. I think that he's a fine quarterback, but at the same time, I think that there are times where he doesn't step up to the plate when he needs to. And that's no insult. I mean, I just said that he's a fine quarterback. I think that he has his moments, but I think that he needs to step up more when he needs to. And also the team around him needs to stop falling apart. And that's my objective opinion on him. Next, we have Kirk Cousins. We are familiar with Kirk Cousins. He has not, if I'm correct, he's never beaten the Cowboys in his career, okay? He's 30 years old, 4,298 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 70.1 completion percentage, and a 99.7% pass rating. Now, with Kirk Cousins, he always has bad matchups against the Cowboys, okay? He never Not that he doesn't play well against the Cowboys. It's just I feel like that the Cowboys are one of those teams that has his number, similar to that of how the Packers would have our number. To an extent, I think that we have that same thing against Kirk Cousins. I feel that the Cowboys will do fine against Kirk Cousins, especially at home. That should be a decent game. I'm not taking anything for granted, but knowing Kirk Cousins' record against the Cowboys and knowing like how he can play, I think we'll be fine, especially at this later part of the season. Next, we have Matthew Stafford. He's 31. We face him in week 11. 3,777 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 66.1 completion percentage, 89.9 passer rating. Now, look, for me, I feel that Matthew Stafford has peaked already and that the Lions are just trying to muster something. We should be fine against the Lions. Now, we do play in Detroit, and we know our history with playing in Detroit, especially the one game in 2013 when they came back on us. But so far, the Cowboys have done very well against the Lions, blowing them out on Monday night in 2016. I don't believe we played them in 2017, and in 2018, with that comeback we had against them. Well, the late comeback, you know what I mean. But the more I look at it, I think that we should be able to take care of business versus the Lions. Matthew Stafford, he just, I don't know what it is with him, but like, I feel that he's just a very he's just a slightly above average quarterback. Oh, how could you say that when you say that about your quarterback? Your quarterback's look, Matthew Stafford, I believe, has, with the tools that he's been given, hasn't been able to capitalize on them. And I think that if this Cowboys defense could take advantage of that situation that Matthew Stafford provides, I think we should be able to beat them. So really, I think that it just comes down to, I know Matthew Stafford has his games versus us, but as of recent, not really. Next, week 12 against Tom Brady, he's 41. 4,355 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 65.8 completion percentage, and a 97.7 passer rating. Listen, Tom Brady, greatest of all time, no question about it. But this is where I think we can run into issues. Okay, the thing that I think gets me with Tom Brady is while he wasn't throwing 40 touchdowns, like he still was efficient enough to get the job done. And I think that that's what especially with how good he is with analyzing the coverages, and especially against the zone defense. I'm not saying the Cowboys per se run those things, but we got to be careful against Tom Brady, especially with the situations at hand, okay? And the more I look at it, can we beat him? Sure, but I think this is going to be the toughest matchup we've had. We're on the road, we're going up against a guy that possibly, if he's still the same, which I think he will be, assuming that nothing else happens to him, I believe that this game will give us fits, but I do think we have the personnel to get the job done, okay? But yeah, I think Tom Brady's going to be the game that gives you fits. Next, Josh Allen. He's 23. He threw 2,074 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 52.8 completion percentage, which is the worst on this list at a 67.9 passer rating. And he also can run. Let me not, forget that. Josh Allen, while I do see him growing next year, I still think that if he plays the same, like in terms of passing, the way he did last year, we shouldn't have any issues with him. He has accuracy issues, like very bad accuracy issues. And the more you look at it, the more you can see, maybe this isn't as bad of a matchup as we thought. Because I know, I don't know why, but I saw some people on Twitter be like, gotta watch out for the Bills. I'm like, what's QBs going to do? Get like 500 yards on it? Nah. We should be fine, though. We should definitely be fine. We're at home. We don't got to worry about that weather. So, yeah. Next, Mitchell Trubisky. We face him in week 14. He's 24 years old. He's definitely improved, especially from what we saw from his first season. 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 66.6 completion percentage at a 95.4 passer rating. The thing with Mitch is that I believe that he has found, the new head coach in Matt Nagy and that offense has found its bread and butter with what they want to do. And I think that's going to definitely pose troubles with us, especially towards the latter part of the season with that defense we got to face. While I think our defense should be fine as well, I do believe that Mitch Trubisky can make plays against us. And, and people might laugh at that, but listen, man, he can make plays when needed. I'm not saying he's an all-world quarterback and stuff of that nature, but I still think that he can definitely do some damage, especially at home at the latter part of the season. And then finally, we have Jared Goff, Week 15. He's 24 as well. 4,688 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 64.9 completion percentage, 101.1 passer rating. Now, with Jared Goff, in the playoffs, he didn't really have to do much because of that running game. But from what we've seen, if he's given time in the pocket and he's given his weapons, he can definitely make some plays. The thing with Goff is like you have to rattle him early, as you can say about any other quarterback on this list, like I haven't said. But really, I believe that Jared Goff is one of those quarterbacks to where if you like, and we saw this with the Bears, because the Bears just completely dismantled the Rams in terms of like their offensive output and things of that nature. Because what would happen is that they would get to Goff, and then Goff would, and people will be like, well, that wasn't at home, that was on the road in Chicago, so that doesn't count. Listen, they had the defense, and it showed what a defense can do. If you can rattle Jared Goff or any of these other quarterbacks for that nature, you can definitely get them to create turnovers of that. And so, by looking at everything we've seen on here, okay, and again, it's just my opinion. I'm not trying to sit here and act like I know everything about these quarterbacks, but I believe that when you look back at it, so you have Eli Manning, Dwayne Haskins, and Carson Wentz 2 times. I think that you can beat Eli Manning twice. I think you can beat Dwayne Haskins twice. I think you can definitely beat Carson Wentz twice, because we've seen it happen, okay? We've seen what the Cowboys can do against those teams. Now, and again, they can do the same to us. I think that they have the capabilities of beating us as well. Let's not exaggerate that either. Then you got Josh Rosen, who I think you should have a favorable matchup. Drew Brees is going to be a tough matchup, okay? Aaron Rodgers, that's going to be a solid matchup. Sam Darnold should be a decent matchup, good matchup. Kirk Cousins is definitely a fantastic matchup, especially from what we've seen. Matthew Stafford should be decent. Tom Brady is going to be difficult. Josh Allen should be an easy matchup. Mitchell Trubisky should be a solid, and Jared Goff should be a solid matchup. I think when you look at it, the Cowboys going up against these quarterbacks should, in fact, they should be able to do well against some more than others. And I think that if they're looking, and these are the guys we got to go up against. And I think that the more you look at it, okay, so I feel good about Eli twice. I feel good about Dwayne Haskins twice. So that's 4 games. Josh Rosen, that's 5. Sam Darnold, that's 6. Kirk Cousins, that's 7. Matthew Stafford, possibly, that's 8. Josh Allen, that's 9. And the other 2, maybe. So that's like 8 games I could say where I can be like, I think I can like that matchup, The other 8 are just like mixed between solid to difficult. But either way, I think we're going up against a solid bunch of quarterbacks this season, and I think it's going to be tough. Especially with history not being on our side in terms of the NFC East, and who typically teams that win the NFC East don't really do as well, or not that they don't do as well, but they do regress. So I want to see what you guys have to say. Tell me, which quarterback matchup are you most worried about? Which quarterback matchup are you most anticipating or think that we have the easiest chance at? Feel free to leave that in the comments section below, and I will be seeing you guys later. All right, guys, peace out. Bye-bye.